Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. Give me a wave if you can hear me. How y'all doing? Good. Well, good afternoon and welcome. Are we here to celebrate some finalists today? That's fantastic. Well, I'm Mike Flesher. I'm here to kick it off, get you all acquainted for what the day is going to look like, orient you to the different breakout rooms and things we have going on, and also, for those of you, there's many faces I recognize, but a lot of new ones as well. Also introduce you to Colorado Companies to Watch, why you're here, why today is important, and how for a lot of the former winners and alumni, how today and the days that follow are super important and super valuable to your own growth and your own trajectory. So, I'm Mike Flesher, Vice Chair of Colorado Companies to Watch. It's great to have you here at the Summit, Expo, and Finalist reception. Today is about one thing: growth. Not startup energy, not early traction, but the hard, real work of scaling a business. And that's what I've seen with Colorado Companies to Watch. What we focus on here in this organization are second stage companies. These are business models that have moved beyond startup, they've proven their model, built momentum, and are now in the phase where growth gets more complex, more strategic, more consequential. You probably have families that you're feeding, employees you're taking care of, customers you're taking care of. This is no longer an idea, it's no longer you, it's something else, it's something really special. This means that companies doing $750,000 to $100 million in revenue with growing teams, real tractions, and big decisions ahead are here today. Because at this stage, it's no longer about if the business works, it's about how to scale it well. So for nearly 2 decades, we've had the privilege of recognizing the companies that are fueling Colorado's economy and building what's next. Each year, we honor up to 50 winning standout second stage companies, and that's out of thousands of applications we receive. We've expanded that recognition as well, not just to companies, but also to nonprofits. These are influential, impactful organizations in our communities that are doing good and are also looking to scale and grow their missions. So we'll also be highlighting 3 nonprofits that are scaling and impacting our state the most. Because growth in Colorado isn't just about business, it's about impact, leadership, and community. We also want to recognize our sponsors and our partners that are here today. Raise your hand if you're a sponsor or a partner. I would also say something else, being a partner ourselves, GLC Advisors, one of the reasons a lot of these nominees are here is because we touch a lot of businesses, we meet a lot of leaders, and we want to recognize them. So a lot of the sponsors and partners in this room are the reason that these companies are in this room. Colorado Companies Watch simply doesn't happen without our partners and sponsors. So your support goes beyond this event. You're investing in the companies, leaders, and organizations that are driving Colorado forward, and we thank you. That's it for you. What does today look like? So today we've designed to be a very fast, valuable, and highly interactive number of sessions. So here is the Expo room. This is open all day long. This is open for networking. This is open for meeting different people at booths, connecting, establishing those connections. And then we have our first program, which is lined up in front of me. It's called the CEO Readiness Lab. And I'll let some other folks introduce that and tell you a little bit about it. Then we're going to also be offering breakout sessions at 3 p.m. So in the conference room, which is down the hall to my right, and then you make a left, there will be the Executive Peer Exchange, which is a guided, interactive, group, real-time problem-solving session for CEOs, followed by also executive introductions. That'll be about 45 minutes after that in that room. Then, in the training room, you see that sign that was well drawn there. In the training room, it's the dining room through the doors. On the right, we'll start the Leadership Roundtable, Built to Scale, Built to Last. A panel offering candid insights from experienced advisors on acquisition strategy, business transformation, planning, and capital raises. And then finally, giving your organization the advantage with practical presentation on agentic AI in the workplace by Dr. Dennis Natali, the AI Innovation Chair at Pikes Peak State College. I'm sure We're all curious on what just happened today with AI. At 4 p.m. then, we'll have food that will be served behind me. The bar, most importantly, will be in the back corner. And then at 5 o'clock, we will celebrate our finalists and announce those that are the finalists. And we'll take a few minutes to acknowledge them and then continue our networking and celebration. And then one last thing, amongst you are the judges that are judging the finalists. So visit our table, our round two judges. They are all around the room. Be sure to meet them. They're hiding. Ask if they're a judge. Everybody you meet, ask if they're a judge because they will impact the decision of you winning or not.
Show your hand, judges. Give show of hands. We have more that will be here tonight. I say the majority, all of our judges except for one.
Thank you, judges. All right, now I'm going to hand it over. I'm going to hand it over to Gabe Vlahos, Vice President, JP Morgan Chase, Trent Feist, Regional Manager of Colorado Venture, and they're going to introduce us to the CEO Readiness Lab. Please join me in welcoming them. They are platinum sponsors and leading us in this event.
Thanks so much, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here. We've been a platinum sponsor for a number of years now, and it's one of our favorite events is to attend the Expo and the finalist reception, mostly because we get to meet all of you and, more importantly, understand the impact that you make in the business community and our communities at large with your growing and thriving businesses. At Venture HR, we're passionate about supporting companies just like you. And as we get into the Readiness Lab, one of the things that we have learned through this process is that sometimes HR and people infrastructure gets forgotten about as you're chasing revenue and growing your business. And that can lead to problematic challenges in the future. So we hope to cover that today, but I'd also like to introduce you to Gabe.
Awesome. Guess I'll use this mic. Okay. Gabe Vlahos, I'm with JP Morgan Chase from our business banking division. It is a pleasure to be here. On a day-to-day basis, I get to work with business owners across the state of Colorado from across multiple different industries, so it is nice to connect. And thanks Colorado Companies Washington for this together. This is awesome. Today is all about growth and scalability. Scaling isn't just hard, it is statistically unforgiving and challenging. These companies often, they experience a plateau in growth where they're simply stuck after an initial success, frequently failing to grow beyond a certain revenue threshold. Stats are a bit shocking when you look at startup and initial phase companies, but it's even more shocking after you get to a certain level. Saw the stats yesterday from the labor statistics, 20% of businesses fail within 12 months. Half of them that make it fail within 5 years, and 65% of them fail within 10 years. For those that are in scale mode and looking for growth, 70% of those companies are just simply plateauing, not knowing how to take the business to the next level. Those were the most shocking stats that I saw. That's the reason we're doing this today, is to hopefully give you guys some ammunition and some valuable tips from COIs, centers of influence in the market. Only about 1 in 10 companies ever crossed the $10 million revenue mark, and fewer than 0.5% reached $50 million plus. That drop-off is not about lack of demand, it's about what breaks inside the business as the business grows. At this stage, companies typically hit a few predictable pressure points. Number one is leadership misalignment. Teams are expanding fast and there's simply a lack of direction. Number two, it's an operational drag where systems simply cannot keep up with growth. Third one is lack of adaptability. What used to once work and what brought a lot of success to the company no longer works, and they fail to adapt quickly. And one of the biggest ones is their positioning, their branding, their storytelling, and the overall message in the market isn't quite following the company's growth and scale.
Yeah, absolutely. And research across growth stage companies shows that it's not really people scaling more successfully. It's about re-architecting their business, changing things up, doing things differently. And that's what today is all about. You'll hear from the partners who are sitting today at the table in front, and they're going to talk to you about the inflection points every day. What breaks? What gets misjudged from their experience? They're working with folks just like you every day of the week. And they're sharing their best practices, and that's what today is going to entail. And they're going to actually talk about what actually moves your company forward, what you can do to avoid the common pitfalls, those mistakes, and more, what you can do proactively to even accelerate your business faster. Then we're going to pressure test in real time with alumni CEOs. We've got one sitting down from Via HR, a great colleague of CCTW and partner. And you're going to hear what it was like directly for them in their business and how they got to this point of being recognized and what happened after receiving the recognition of a Colorado Companies to Watch. It's not theory, it works. This is where scaling either accelerates or it stalls. So listen for what resonates, what stands out to you, what can you take away from today. Pressure test your own business and leave with clarity on where to focus next and where to take your business.
Let's get the panelists introduced. This is not in the correct order, but getting started with Dan Martella with Bennett Thrasher. Then we have Heidi Speichinger. Does that work?
Does that work?
My last name is tricky too. I get it. With CBIZ Advisors, Melody Regan, Crazy Good Marketing. We got Mike Hart with ID Bailey, Richard Hearn with Ants Credit Union, Michael Fleshner with LGC Advisors, and Martin Warners with Thrive Workplace. We also have a special session with the alumni, and we'll save those for later. Those are very special two guests that we have. To get started, why don't we go in order, starting with Dan, and let's just do a quick 3-minute name, title, company, and what exactly you offer, and then I'll have a question for each one of you.
Fantastic. Can you guys hear me okay? I normally don't use a microphone because I always want to break out and sing, so this could turn into be very dangerous. So Dan Martella, I am the head of our business development group for Bennett Thrasher for our Mountain West region. Bennett Thrasher is a middle market CPA firm supporting growth stage companies, lower middle market companies to help them get to the next level, i.e. scale their business to get from 10 to 30 to 50 to 100 million. We bring in Big Four expertise as part of that process because we have that pedigree within our firm.
Okay, the question, or you might have, we'll want to say again. We'll go around just for answers. Oh, okay. Sorry.
I'm Mike Hart. I'm with Ide Bailey. We are a top 20 CPA firm, so I think you're going to hear a few CPA firms here back to back. But I'm specifically on the audit side, but we are, we provide audit and tax services on top of a variety of advisory services, including tax diligence, technology consulting, data analytics, transaction advisory, both on the sell side and the buy side. So trying to be beyond just the normal audit and tax services of a CPA firm, providing kind of a whole array of options for our clients.
I'm Heidi Speichinger. I'm with CEDAS. I'm a director there for the outsourced accounting team in our Denver office. Our team really focuses on anywhere from your day-to-day accounting all the way up to fractional CFO and advisory services. And that's mainly where my role is that upper level with CFO and advisory services.
Thanks. Mike Fleshner, we met earlier. GLC Advisors, Managing Director. We are an investment bank that focuses on founders, owners, operators in either selling their business, raising capital, whether debt or equity, or looking for strategic advisory on how to grow their business to drive value. We serve companies across multiple different industries, have offices across the nation, and then also focus on companies that are anywhere from $5 million in revenue up to a couple $100 million in revenue.
Hi, everyone. My name is Richard Hearn. I'm with Ant Credit Union, becoming Wings Credit Union. You'll see that here as well, too. But soon to be Wings Credit Union, we're going to be approximately the 10th or 11th largest credit union in the nation here relatively soon. And we're unique in the fact that we're one of the few spaces in the credit union area that actually has a standalone business banking department. And so we offer all the valuable services you see from the regional and local and the large banks as well, too. And then personally speaking, I've been in business banking for almost 15 years and managed relationships all the way from startup of between $600 million revenues. And so just had a lot of conversations with business owners and been through some of the things that we'll talk about today, hopefully provide some insight. So we want to say thanks for being here.
Good afternoon. My name is Martin Warnars. I am not a CPA, so don't worry, I won't do that spiel. I'm the CEO of Thrive Workplace. We are a co-working environment for entrepreneurs and small business owners. So it gives us, those businesses, the flexibility to come in and come out of an office space or workspace. So it's very flexible for them as they grow, or unfortunately, according to the statistics, some do not grow. So as they decrease, we have that flexibility for them as well.
Nicely done. Hi, I'm Melody Brega, and I'm the CEO and founder of Crazy Good Marketing. We're a full-service marketing firm, and what we do is we help small to mid-sized businesses turn their marketing into true growth engines. We do this, though, with a twist. We're really a unique marketing firm. We become your marketing team. So what that means, you get access to the right talent in the right time, in the right amount, and in the right budget. So that's what we do. And we've been doing it for many years now, working with second stage companies.
Thank you, everyone. Dan, back to you. Will be more of a open-ended questions, but we'll love to hear from each one of you guys. What's a common scaling mistake that you've seen? And if you have any tips on how to potentially avoid it.
So if I can rephrase it, instead of mistake, I'll call it opportunity, if that's okay. So being on the business development side, you guys may be asking, why the hell is a business development guy up in the front, as opposed to like the auditor or what have you? I get the front row seat to talk to CFOs, CEOs, business owners, founders. And there are a couple of things that stand out and resonate in this question, and one of them is tied to having the right strategic partner. Sometimes I believe what happens is, for the sake of cost, because we know when you're scaling, there are cost pressures associated with scaling. You've got a lot of different things. You want to put your money into the growth engine, if you will. But sometimes you're making the decision on your own, and you might be missing out on huge advantages in your business. So for example, if you're working with a partner, and I'm going to use a CPA firm, if that's okay. And I promise you I'm not trying to sell you anything. So tax strategy can be very critical. And if you can move beyond the transactional compliant relationship with your CPA and really get into, let's sit down once or twice a year and have a planning discussion, catch-up discussion, not just, hey, it's time to file my taxes, here's all my financial information. It changes the dynamic of a partner at the table. And that is really critical when you're scaling and growing, because you want to see around the corners, you don't know where coming up. And that's where an effective partner, a strategic partner, can come into play. And when you look at the relationship you have, you want to find that CPA firm that's going to focus on how to be a collaborative partner with you to help you think about your business, where to invest your time and energy in your business, but also where are there some advantages you're not taking advantage of today? Like, for example, easy one, R&D tax incentives. Are you taking the most advantage of that to bring money back into your business to then reinvest it back into your platform or your company or in your hiring process?
Thank you, Dan.
I think when thinking about the clients that I serve and clients that our firm serves, I think one of the biggest things we see when a company is trying to scale at this size is there's kind of two ways you can go. You can either take the route of continuing to grow. It's having a growth mindset at all costs, versus is there, you need to start kind of building out a little bit of your, we'll call it the back office, but it might be finance, it might be some of those other areas where it's not as pretty, right? It's not as appealing as just going out and getting sales, but there's an element of you're building a little bit of that underlying infrastructure. You're to provide, I guess, useful information that creates what we would say is like accountability within your organization, right? You're providing clear messaging, you're providing clear numbers, clear goals to everyone involved, as opposed to just saying, well, we're just going to continue to grow. Because as you scale, you have to have that underlying infrastructure. And I think just in general, what I've seen in the industries that I've worked in is I've seen success stories that where businesses focus on that, and they tend to have a bit more success than the ones who are like, well, let's keep growing. I have a client right now, they still have success, they still have growth, but they kind of focused on growth as opposed to getting that underlying infrastructure, getting that base in place, and it's led to some troubles, it's led to some problems, and I think the ones who are more successful are the ones who do kind of, they take a step back and say, yeah, we still want to grow, we still need to grow and scale, but we've got to create clear goals and clear accountability for everyone in our organization.
One of the issues that I see most common when prospects are coming to me and talking to me is there are too many CEOs and upper management that are solely relying on a balance sheet and P&L to gauge their financial performance. At stage 2 growth, really the name of the game is being more proactive than reactive, and you can't be proactive in your strategies when you're just looking at a P&L and a balance sheet. Don't get me wrong, they're great, they're your classic reports for a reason, but being more mindful in what we're looking at, breaking down the financials into more granular detail. Having a budget set up. The number of companies that come to me that have 10, 20, 30 million in revenue that do not even have a budget used to shock me. It does not anymore because it's very common. And getting a cash flow set up, or, what is our cash flow for the next 3 months? Breaking down the profit margin by, what's our profit margin by a customer, by revenue stream, by product? Are we putting resources where they shouldn't be put? Are we putting them towards customers or towards products that are yielding really low margins that we can use these resources elsewhere to be more in line with our strategies and where we want to be in the long term? So, as to Dan's point, getting that strategic partner where you can have these conversations, you can look more at these metrics, be more mindful and detailed in kind of this financial analysis will empower you to be more proactive and set up for success instead of just reacting to what has previously happened. I've seen a lot of great companies fail that way or not be able to take advantage of certain opportunities that come along because they were still in a reactive stage. So the earlier you get, it's never too early to implement this strategic partner, to have these conversations. The more your partner knows your goals and your end results, the more they can tailor their financial analysis and their metrics and their guidance to where you want to be.
I think, and earlier when I was speaking, I was hyping us all up about growth and scale, and I think when we meet with founders and owners, I think the thing that we see that delineates scalability or not is being able to define what scale means for that owner, right? We get a lot of times the question, what matters more, from a valuation standpoint or from a saleability standpoint, is it growth or profitability? Because sometimes you sacrifice one for the other, and we have examples where we're working with a company in the auto collision space, and they have grown profitably, and they've always been frustrated in their ability to grow the top line because they want to make sure they maintain their profits. And so we're actually bringing in a capital partner that is interested in saying, well, how long do you think, if we had enough dry powder, how long can we sustain opening up new locations without becoming profitable to then, ramp up the J curve and have those locations become profitable? So that's something where, defining scalability meant being profitable. And then, for example, Justin and I, we have a mutual connection that's in the distribution space and fabrication space that focuses on fittings and different things that go into the aerospace and defense and market. And for this owner, scalability meant pure top line. Didn't take any distributions out of the business, has owned it for 10 plus years, continued to reinvest in the business. So for him, scalability was more about achieving a top line number and then recognizing that margin over time. So in terms of being able to scale, it's defining what that means for you and understanding what's the path towards that and how do I stay on that path.
Thank you. A lot of great stuff came up on this. And I think I kind of want to echo a few points. And first of all, I want to say, congratulations to everybody in this room as a finalist, because you made it to this stage, and a lot of people don't make it to this point, period, right? And so that's something that you can pat yourself on the back for. The thing I would say is, and kind of echoing this, is that, scalability really it depends on what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. What does that look like, right? And so within that, being in the banking industry and having dealt with business owners for, better part of almost 2 decades at this point, a couple things that I run across is when we go from $0 to $1 million, a lot of times, sometimes that's luck, sometimes it's hard work, but you are still in the business and the business is you. When you go from that 1 to 5 million, now we're starting to build in some complexity in what that looks like. And there's different challenges because as you continue to grow to a business, and this is echoing what Mike said, is the fact is that as you grow, the cost to do business is not linear, it changes. There's additional costs for your working capital, for your HR, for the insurance, for the regulations that go into it. And so to be able to look at that and have, it seems intuitive, but the biggest thing I would say is having those conversations with the appropriate people in advance. And I know because I'm a banker, you say, oh, you need a banker. Well, no, it's not just a banker. You need to build teams internally and externally. So you have your accounting, your HR people. You need to have a good attorney. You have to have a good CPA. You have to have a good banker. You need some people on the M&A side of things, okay? And so when we look at that, I think probably when we talk about mistakes or opportunities, as Dan said, when you hit a certain stage, the biggest thing you have to be able to do, if your goal is to scale, is you have to separate yourself from the business. Because when it comes to looking at the banking side of things, from a pure financial aspect, most of the conversations I have with high-level businesses is not the business owner, it's the finance team. And that also applies into the fact that when you look at capital, because you need capital in order to be able to get that scalability part, different sides of capital. And I know you're thinking, let's take out a loan. That's not what I'm saying. What it is there's different ways to have access to capital. You can inject that yourself. There is certainly bank financing. There's certainly debt. Sometimes it is going to be the equity injection from M&As and private equity type stuff. But the more that you can make the company stand alone, move yourself away from that from a financial aspect, and it's the distribution, it's taking everything out of it to make sure that that company is going to be profitable, has a tangible net worth, is going to be attractive to whatever partner you choose from a capital access. I think that's probably the biggest, I want to say, hiccup through that process. So, again, just to reiterate, is make sure that you've got the right team internally, make sure you have the right people externally, and then treat that business as something different than yourself.
So I'm not going to repeat what everybody else said. I basically think there's 3 components to running a good, successful business. And it's people, process, and finance. As you can possibly imagine, as you grow, and if you were a solopreneur, you add people, right? And you start delegating. And that's probably one of the hardest things that you have as an owner, is to delegate.
They're not going to do as good as I am.
No, they won't. They never will. Okay, I've owned a business, and I've had that argument with my partner. They won't, because they're not the business owner. It's just like your child, if you have children. No one's going to raise your child better than you. Well, obviously your partner. But as long as you understand that, delegating will be a little bit easier. You need them to do things that you either like doing or you don't like doing, or else it's not scalable. So that's the number one thing, is people, and getting the right people in the right stage of your growth. The person that you hired at the beginning may not be the right person when you're at 5 or 10 million. They serve their purpose, they're the right person at the right time, but now at a different stage of your company, it's going to be a different person that you need. And that also may be you. What you were at the time was perfect. But maybe right now, you're not the right person in the right seat. I'm not saying to step away, but you have to find what makes sense for you with your talents. Process will break. You can hire the best people in the world, but if your process suck, they will leave because they'll be frustrated that things aren't flowing efficiently. And you want efficiency in order to make money, right? So this guy can take your money and make it, more. Which leads to the last thing is finance. A lot of small businesses, when you ask them, kind of also to Heidi's point, you look at your financials, you ask a lot of small business owners and you'll say, hey, how are you going to make your money? They're like, oh yeah, look at the bank account. Okay. Do you pay with checks? Yes. All right, how many of those checks are just floating around there? And that's something, to Heidi's point, you're looking in the back, like your financials, which is good to look forward. But as you grow, if you need to hire people, you need to find better systems for your processes, right? Or you need to expand in marketing or infrastructure, or obviously in our case, more office space, right? You'll need money, and you need to manage your cash well. They don't say cash is queen or cash is king, right? I say queen because there's a lot of female business owners here. I wish there's more of you guys. But it's important. It sucks. Money does suck. It stresses you out. But if you don't have it, you won't grow, right? So.
Thank you, Martin. Martin, by the way, our percentage of female, minority, and veteran-owned businesses in our finalists, you're going to hear more about that later. We actually have a very high percentage. Jeff, I'm going to ask you to come and sit right up here next to Tyler, please. One of the things, thank you. One of the things that I have seen is the marketing that you have done that got you here won't necessarily get you to where you're going. If you think about it, you started off very scrappy. Your CEO, your partner, your owner, that's your sales engine when you first start. The other thing is you have friends, family, somebody built you a website, somebody helps you with something, somebody does some social for you, and it's all very bifurcated. It's broken up. The other thing that happens to us when we start our businesses is we take opportunities and we run with them. The business defines itself, and ultimately we have to figure out, this is a client that really doesn't work for us, this is a client that does work for us. So what I would say as far as my advice is, when you are in that growth curve, now is the time for you to bring in some bigger guns on marketing, get a more integrated approach where people have the experience. It's not wasting time or money. They can actually work with your team, but you really and truly need to bring it together. And actually, Gabe brought up earlier your brand, etc. I can tell you, companies will start to splinter if they don't do that. And I've had the pleasure of working very small to very large on a global scale. I used to be a senior executive at Level 3, and I ran all of Level 3's marketing. I actually launched long distance for US West here in Colorado. So I've done quite a few things, and I can tell you, we ran into big issues because we didn't get our marketing straight, our messaging, and we weren't enabling our salespeople. One thing I am going to share with you as a business owner, that if I had a do-over that I could go back when I started my business, a couple things that my colleagues said today. I did not build a personal relationship with my banker. And I wish earlier on I had done that. I wish I'd known Rich earlier on. It would have been a very, very powerful thing for me. The other thing that our CPA said here is I didn't get my books straight at first. I wasn't sure, am I making money here? Am I making money there? I had to go back through and restructure my book. So if you want to hear about more mistakes, please catch me when we are doing the reception. I will share them galore. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to you, Gabe, so thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to share one thing. I think you might have been Heidi who used the word proactive here. Somebody asked me the other day, what was the most memorable moment of your career? And it was actually last year. And they asked, what made that moment so special, so memorable? And when I look back, when my client calls me saying, Gabe, I'm getting divorced, I need $2 million to buy my partner out, who happens to be his former spouse. He didn't know a strategy, he didn't know what to do. My instant reaction was, let's get lunch, get your CPA, business attorney, let's all be on the same side of the table. And let's have a good time. Anyway, I just thought I'll share. Putting the right people in the same room, getting everybody aligned is probably the smarter things you can do. With that.
Well, and not only that, you've all heard from trusted advisors on this panel, but look around you who's in the room. You all are peers to each other now. You're part of the CCTW community. And it extends beyond this room to some 900 recipients over the last, 19 years that CCTW has been in existence. They've walked in your place. And you don't have to go out and blaze new trails. You can learn from those that have already been there, and they can share their best practices, what they've avoided, what successes they've had. So tap into that. This is a community. It goes so far beyond this room. So as you leave tonight, and we hope to see many of you back at the gala, but beyond that, attend the events. Get to know your regional chapter and those that participate in the regional chapter, because that's where the real magic happens, is in those personal conversations, those one-on-one opportunities to say, you know what, I'm struggling with this in my business. What did you do? You survived it. Help me learn. And that's where the magic of the Colorado Companies to Watch community comes together. So we're going to now switch it over to the hot seat. We have a couple of honorees that are CCTW alumni, and they have graciously volunteered to put themselves in the crosshairs and to field not only questions from you all, but also some predetermined questions on what they learned along the way. And we'd like to introduce both of them. First, Jeff with Geotech, our host for the day. Recognized back in 2012 as a Colorado Companies to Watch, and certainly here we are 14 years later, and excited to hear from Jeff what he's learned along the way over the last 14 years since he was recognized, and the ability to impart his wisdom on all of you. And then we have Tyler with Vita HR, who's a bit of a unique individual, because last year he was a recipient for Vita HR and nominated again this year for a new company, Vita Benefits. So could be the very first two-time recipient in Colorado Companies to Watch history. So looking forward to hearing what Tyler has to say. So we have some questions for you, for our audience, to answer for our audience. So what what you ran into as you scaled, the mistakes or missteps you made along the way, how you worked through it, and what you recommended or what you would recommend to others at the same stage. We'll get you some microphones here.
Just jump in?
Yeah. Jeff with Geotech, you said he's 2012, right? So you're here at Geotech. We were recently in this building. Back then we moved in 2006, and we're really on a growth trajectory at that point. I think one of the things looking back at it that we stayed true to is a lot of our values and the community efforts. And I know in the award and selection process for CCTW, it wasn't just that you could show growth as a company, but that you're engaged in the community in a positive way. And so that really resonated with us, and we've continued to make the space here available for not just this group, but a ton of community groups to get together and to meet. And we feel it's important that peers can get together and engage. And I think that was one of the biggest things. I'm still in touch with a lot of the folks that we won together with, and it's kind of a little bit of a fraternity, sorority type environment where you have that commonality and that connection. And I think one of the things I wasn't ready for at this stage now, where you're
based on being in the press. So we weren't really that sexy of a company before, so all of a sudden having your name on the paper, get really sexy. But the amount of phone calls that you came in by people trying to sell you stuff. So, and then I think the mindset is, hey, we're this company, we just got recognized, we know what the heck we're doing. So it was a little bit of that mindset that we had our stuff together. And I think the reality of it, if you look back at it, and a lot of the sponsors here in the room, where a lot of the providers that we had that got us to that level weren't the same providers to break us through to the next. So to be open-minded to look at as your needs change as a company, the support system that you need externally varies, and also internally, knowing that the people on the team that got us to this level weren't always the same people to take you to the next level. So how can you grow with the people internally that you have, and where do you need to add people? So I think growth is super interesting for a company, because you have an individual on a team that's wearing multiple hats, and as you grow, it's too much work. So as you grow, they gotta be able to let go of something and specialize or focus on something. You're adding some other talent. And then the biggest reflection, I think, for me personally, was just looking at myself and what is it that I was really good at, and what should I just not do anymore and give up and hire someone into those roles to take us to another level. So I think it was, it takes a lot of, dedication and competitiveness and a lot of drive to get to this level. But you've got to be able to give up a little bit of the control. You can't make every decision. You can't review every single product or marketing brochure or email. You got to start growing up and expanding your team. And part of that is too, you get to focus on the stuff that interests you the most and you're best at. And it's okay to let go of some of the stuff that you're not. And that maybe you're not going to be in the CEO title. You might hire someone to lead that, and you focus on the technology. You got to know what it is that you're best at. And as I started, I think the key thing we stayed true with is true to our values and what was important to us. And part of that was being engaged in a positive way with the community. And I probably spend more time in that area than I would, but I've hired for the team to where I have the ability to do that. Serve on a lot of nonprofit boards, and that's important to me. It may not be best for the growth of Geotech, but that's more important for me, and then I hire people to help in other areas. So I don't know, that's a little bit of a story to where we got to be here. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, sir. Our company growth and story was probably similar to many of you. We started out with an idea and a whole bunch of passion with a very small group of people, and that came from difficulty in some of the areas that we serve now. And so we had an idea that was birthed out of pain and a whole lot of gumption to go make a difference in it. So early stages was great. We grew rapidly. We added team members and so forth. And the reputation of us going the extra mile really went a long way. But I think we hit some big bumps when some of the founding members who were part of that passionate team weren't skilled for some of the next steps that we were going to take. And so it was really, I would say I waited too long to bring up tough conversations, to talk about those transitions and what was motivating them, and what were their goals, and how could we help make a good transition for them. So I would encourage you, if you've got some of those conversations to have, do it sooner than later, and be brave and get in there, because the right thing is the right thing. And when we made those changes, our growth accelerated and our unity as a group grew. We stuck to our values, but the skills that we needed to keep going were missing in some ways. And so we had to make some tough calls early in the business stage, and it really paid off in the end. And now we did that very well, so we're friendly with all those folks. They're dear friends and guided us meaningfully, but we had to make those tough calls. So I encourage you, if you're in that spot, go for it. Embrace it. And if you do it well, it will lead to a great result. We were really honored to be nominated for Colorado Companies to Watch. At first, we were just excited for the opportunity. But I didn't realize what was going to happen as a result. So we were excited to win an award, small scrappy company, $5 million in revenue, growing about 20% a year, really good track. But so this is just a good feather in my cap is what I thought. We've won a nice award. That's going to be great. But our growth has increased since then. So the visibility that we received as a company was very meaningful to us. And so as a sales guy at heart, I was thrilled. Like, oh man, we're showing up in all kinds of places and our name is getting out there. Our brand is growing. And so I thought, fantastic. But what I didn't expect was the community, the value in the community that we have. So we focus a lot on building client-centric tools that would serve them and that would help them succeed, and good service that would yield growth, and sales initiatives to make that growth happen. But what I learned from the community of people here, good guys like Mike and different ones that shared with me what's really important about building value in your company. And so that infrastructure piece became a big focus, and getting some of those key things put together and built well that will show value to anyone who wants to partner with us or eventual exits was super critical. And there were some holes, there were some gaps. And so I feel very, very supported by this community. There have been people who were happy to advise me, not for revenue, not just for compensation or them getting a new client, but hey, let's go have a cup of coffee, let's go have lunch, and let you ask any question you want. It's not just about building business connections, but it's about mentoring and about caring for the people involved. And so I found a great resource, great people to bounce ideas off of. This isn't typical networking. This is a community of deep knowledge and caring people. And so I encourage you to plug in. I did plug in, so now I lead the chapter for the Northern Colorado companies to watch, and on the board and everything else. It's my other career. So be careful. If you get involved, just be careful. If you hang out with Melody much, you're gonna have some jobs to do. Just kidding. It's very worth what you put in. You get out what you put in. So I want to encourage you, participate, take advantage of what's available to you. Congratulations to the winners. It will do great things for your company. So all the best to you.
All right, we're going to give you an opportunity in the audience to ask any questions that you would have of our two hot seat participants as well as the panel as a whole. So we'll be passing microphones around at us, so if you have a question that you'd like to ask of either the panelists or our two hot seat participants, please let us know. Raise your hand. Not everyone at once.
Hi everyone, my name is Anu Vora. I'm with Ignite Counseling, which is a finalist here today. I'm curious, a lot of the business books and a lot of founders I know talk about succession planning, right? So making a plan for how to scale your business, you're all nodding, making sure you know you're next in line if you win the lottery or whatever, right? And so how do you manage that with also the reality of it's a real business with real margins, you can't just duplicate roles? When did you all, maybe if you have any insights as to how did you think about succession planning, what have you practically done to be able to manage having, a next in line or a deputy where everybody's still contributing and accountable to certain goals in the business, but there's, a reason for them to be there. But everyone talks about it, I'm not sure I've heard a lot of really practical how to do it advice, and at least in the books I read. So.
I don't know if we're the best at it. A lot of hope and pray. No, I think a lot of it's the cross-training and coverage and, making sure that folks can take time off and people aren't waiting around to make decisions where people know that they have the authority to make the decisions and really coaching people through if they make a decision you wouldn't have made, that you're just coaching them through the next time where they don't feel like they made a mistake, that you're just offering if I was encountering a situation like that in the future, here's something else to consider. I think we've got a lot of the basic framework and structure in place if something bad were to happen to me, and a lot of insurance. So I think I think insurance and a decent enough plan, because the growth and as people were talking about earlier with cash, I still think we're going to grow enough to where cash is important. I don't know if that ever changes. I don't know. Has anybody grown to the point where cash didn't matter? I don't know that it ever does. Cash isn't flowing, and it's terrible now with tariffs and taxes and everything else. We're a manufacturer, and it's still the day-to-day and surviving. It hasn't gone away. It's still a constant.
Just to add on, is if your succession planning is including your family, so that's one aspect to it, is identifying, and it comes into family dynamics. You know, if you have children, if it's going to be the oldest, the youngest, whoever, or who's, so then you have to set kind of rules of engagement for them, right? So, hey, Dad, why am I not? Mom, why am I not? This, he is or whatever. So, but also have like a rigorous process of what you want. For an example, to give you a concrete example, if you have maybe children and they want to take over business, you're like, you have to go to school, you have to have a master's, and you have to go work somewhere else, right? Get some experience from different companies, get their best practices, and then come and then work your way up, right? Because a lot of them will probably have worked with you. My kids have worked with my wife's company since they were 5. So, but one thing, knowing the company in and out every day, but it's also good to know other better practices from going to school or working somewhere else. If it's in a business where none of your kids are interested, and I've seen that as well, they're like, God, I hate that, Mom. No. It's okay, it's their life, right? It's too bad, it's a shame. Then you'd have to identify, is somebody internally act for it? Do they want to buy it? Do they want, how? Then it gets to the legalities of it, no? But then, to Jeff's point, is the training. What do they need to know to be successful? How can you transfer that knowledge, that institutional knowledge that you have to them? And you basically set like a plan, right? Very specific. This month, I'm going to teach you this. This month, I'm going to teach you that. This month, I'm going to teach you this. And that goes along with making decisions. Okay, you can make this kind of decision. You can make this kind of decision. You can make this kind of decision. Up to a point where you say, okay, you can do anything under $10,000. But above that, it's still required. Or you can buy whatever, you can pay for whatever, but if it's an asset, that's on you, because it's still income. And then how you transition shares, it's also very complicated, but you can do it by, hey, this is the goals, you hit a goal, I'll give you X amount of the company as the company grows. So they're still vested in the success of the company. I hope that gives you a little bit more practical.
I just want to say something really quick. I want to give Jeff a hi. What he did is, it's not about succession for an individual. He created a leadership team, is what he did. So it's not always about just replacing yourself. It's about providing other leadership within your company. The other one that a lot of companies don't think about is an ESOP. And we actually, one of our breakout sessions, we will be discussing what's next. And we actually have an ESOP expert with us today. So I love everything that Martin said. I just want you to think about it a little bit broader as opposed to replacing you. Because what Mike will tell you when you go to sign your company, nobody wants to buy your job. If you are the person that is so embedded in your company, it will be next to impossible to sell. So you have to make your company run without you.
What she said. No, I think that's the reality as well too. Is that there's no right or wrong answer, but I think the lack of foresight is probably the biggest thing. Is that there's no wrong time to have that conversation. And there's people out there who have more expertise on this, even than I do. But within that, you have to look at what is the goal of you exiting the business. Is it because you want to preserve the culture? You want to preserve that within the family, the ESOP, which means the employee stock option program, or do you want to make as much money as you possibly can when you exit, right? Because the reality is you have to have a contingency plan for all those, and it is a different way to build those. And at the end of the day, if you go down the route of selling that company, a lot of people come and say, I'm going to buy this, we're going to keep the culture the same. No, they're not. It's going to be their company, they're going to do what they want. You have to be comfortable with that because you have to separate yourself in that instance. The other thing I would say too is the lack of foresight, and this is one of the things I see on a regular basis, that you have someone who puts all the time and energy into business, they build it up, they don't have any of that planning in place, and what we see is the last couple of years when you start thinking about exiting businesses, you see revenues go from 10 million to 5 million to 2. And now they're expecting, I want somebody to pay me what I think it's worth. Well, a lot of times that doesn't support that. And so I think, again, knowing exactly what you want out of the exit is probably the biggest thing. Have those conversations as early as possible. And again, this is redundant, but to have conversations with people who know.
Great question. We have one back there.
Hi, I'm Pam from Law Mother, one of the finalists. Great panel. I had two questions. One is golden handcuff strategies for keeping your key people. And then the second one is, as far as the parents on the panel, kind of your best tips of balancing your goals for your future and your ambition, but also being present for the people you love, your kids. I have 2 young kiddos, so would love to hear your thoughts.
Happy to address the golden handcuffs question. Very, very direct. And I think also maybe what you're getting at is how do you incentivize those around you to stay, right? So that way you're retaining those people, whether it's in a go-forward organic growth strategy or if maybe you're transitioning the business and selling it, that's another. Because I'd say the majority of the businesses in this room are people businesses, and any acquirer is going to want the people because that's where the value is. So as far as those strategies go, and then also as it ties into scaling, one of the things that we talk to businesses about, and one of the first questions we ask when meeting a new prospect or developing a new relationship is, have you put together equity incentive plans for your leadership team or your management team? Just because people think differently. People think like an owner when they're an owner versus they think like an employee when they are paid like an employee. The best plans that we've seen that work out are ones that are tax advantageous, obviously to those folks. You don't want to create a large tax event where you give them something that is non-cash value and now all of a sudden they're stuck with a tax burden. So there are structures and options out there, whether it's phantom stock, option pools, profit sharing plans as well. Those seem to work very well. We also encourage if the goal, I'm trying to look for you and I can't see you. There you are. The goal is, right, to retain them for a certain period of time. So not giving that obviously all up front, but vesting that over time, whether that's tied to just tenure or tied to performance of the organization. Again, getting them to think like owners and thinking towards hitting financial targets and goals. And I'm happy to talk to you more about that and introduce you to people who are well more equipped and put those plans together than me. But those are what we've seen has worked well within sort of this ecosystem of second stage companies that are looking to scale. Did you want to talk about family? I saw you grab on. Yeah.
I'll comment on the family side. I'm a pretty driven guy, and so left to my own devices, I could just work all the time. But I made a decision when I bought into this company 15 years ago that one of the primary reasons was I wanted to be able to be available to my family. And so I traveled a ton before that. So the nice thing about being the owner of a company is you have the opportunity to be flexible. And you can be at games and you can do things if you take the discipline to do it. So I work late at night sometimes because I went to a game in the daytime or I went to a school event and I want to be there for that. So you are the owner, remember that, and you can make the decision and set the values for your company that then everyone will live by. And so I just encourage you to be brave and do it. So there's not really a silver bullet for it. It's just take the discipline and do it. And you can. And even if it means a little less growth, how much is that worth to you? So to me, it was prioritizing with my wife, like, hey, this is the most important thing to us, so we're gonna kick butt in the business, but we're gonna make sure we're available for the kids. And we did, and it's worked out really well. We're close with all of our kids, they're now married and having babies, and they all live around us, and we do lots of fun things together, even though we're busy business owners, so you can do it.
I would tag on to that and say, it was said earlier by a panelist, and that's delegation. Start delegating early on so that you are cross-training and you aren't the only person that can fill that function within your company. By having that cross-training and cross-support, it will allow you to step away when you need to, and for you to have full trust that the people that are taking over for you in that regard are well-trained and well-prepared for when that time comes. Other questions? We've got about 10 minutes left.
Alex, Three Rocks Engineering Surveying. I had a question for Jeff and Tyler. There's a lot of different scaling systems out there. EOS, Rockefeller Habits, things like that. Do you have a specific favorite one, and how rigidly did you stick to it?
I think one of the ones we paid a lot of attention to is managing the growth curve. So I think, I can't remember who wrote it, someone's got to know it. But they're based out of Denver, but no real favorite system. I think it's a variety of what's going to work for your business, and really try to be not the guy that read a book and everybody in the company said, gosh, what book did you read this month? So I think a whole lot of we do a ton of work in lean manufacturing, and we don't use Six Sigma, black belt, and all this. We don't use that fancy jargon. We use everyday words and terms to not alienate everybody on the floor or feel like gotta go get a degree and learn a bunch of acronyms. So I think we take what's out there and translate that language into a language that works within the company, and we follow a lot of principles and guidance out there, but it's really, we call it our GBIS, like Geotech Business Improvement System. So we just make it our own and define our own culture around the language that's working for us.
I think that's good. We've used EOS, we've used StratOps, we've used a number of different things, but I would say Strat process has been very, very effective for us on a strategic planning and execution kind of side of things. We probably stick closest to that. But I would say being consistent with any one of those systems. There's lots of smart people with lots of great ideas. And being consistent with it so that your employees don't have that whiplash of, oh, now we're doing that, now we're doing this new system, etc. If you can pick one kind of process and stick with it and be consistent, I think it'll serve you well. So EOS is a great system, so is Strata. Both of those I recommend highly.
Absolutely, and we're lucky enough to have EOS as a sponsor of Colorado Companies to Watch. I've worked with a number of EOS implementers over the past couple of decades that I've been helping small business owners. And one of the things I really appreciate about, and I'm not paid or an endorser at all of EOS, but I've seen the results. And that's because that facilitator comes in and works with you one-on-one and really is able to mold the system to fit what you need for your company and to work with you one-on-one to develop that. And it's having that outside accountability a lot of times that can be super beneficial. So if you're interested in talking to EOS or finding out what it's about, don't forget to stop by in the back.
Let's give everybody up here a round of applause. Thanks for your participation. Thanks for your engagement and your questions as well. Now we're going to get into our breakout session phase of today. So as I mentioned, down the hall to the left, and it's at 2:45, right, Melody? 2:45 we'll be doing this?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock, my apologies. 3 o'clock, breakout for executive peer exchange down the hall to the left, and then through these doors, and then there's another set of doors on the left, It's our breakout session, leadership roundtable, built to scale, built to last. We'll see you at those events.